Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Remnant Revealed.
It's been a minute.
Howdy, Rick.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How about you?
I'm doing well.
What a great day.
It is. I always enjoy when we're recording.
Yeah. And today we're recording in a very special place. This is Union Street Station of the oldest train line from a long time ago.
That is right. Union Station in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana.
Downtown Indiana. Yep. That's where we're at. Because this is where the International Conference of Police Chaplains is taking place, and we're actually in this hotel, and I've been staying in a old railroad car. That's been a trip.
That's your hotel room.
That is my hotel.
Yeah, it's a very
cool thing. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
Crown
once in a
Plaza
while,
Hotel.
I just go woo woo, choo choo, and then, I'm not really doing that. But anyway, we have a great guest with us today, and we're doing a couple of programs while we're here. But this is the president of the International Conference of Police Chaplains, and this is our dear friend and president, Jim Bontrager.
Joy to be with you guys.
And an alum of the podcast.
He is an alum.
Yeah.
So you were in episode 27.
Yes, sir.
And we're now up in the 90s.
Wow.
But that was when he was younger because he didn't have a beard.
No, but I'm digging the beard.
It took him a while.
So if you're looking to get a good beard, come on this podcast because it'll stimulate your follicles.
It took
doing
75 episodes later for him to get a beard.
To grow that out.
Grow that beard. That's a long time.
Man, it's good seeing you.
Good seeing you guys. It's a blessing.
Yeah. So tell us what we're doing here. This is the International Conference of Police Chaplains, affectionately known as ICPC. We have about 50 of our best sisters and brothers hanging out with us in the audience here. And what is this all about?
Well, the International Conference of Police Chaplains, our mission is developing professional law enforcement chaplains through dynamic education and support. So we're here to educate. Our big thing, we're divided up into 12 world regions. We're in Region 7, which comprises Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana.
Region 4.
Or 4.
Sorry,
7.
Mr.
Yeah,
President.
I'll be all right. Yeah, see, I know where I'm
This
at.
is what happens when you're all over the country.
Yeah, I
with
am.
us.
Let's put it this way. I'm not all here.
So this is Region 4.
Region 4 with
Region
7
4. We'll get
states.
7 states. There we go. I'm dyslexic.
There you go. There you go.
So anyway, we're almost there. But anyway, Kentucky and West Virginia, Ohio, I think that's all.
So really kind of the Midwest states.
Yes, sir. So we have a 3-day training seminar. We have basically 2 big events. We have an annual training seminar, which is a week-long training. We'll be doing that in Little Rock, Arkansas this year. And then we're in Region 4. We have a 3-day, each region has a 3-day training event where we just come in here, try to sharpen our skills to better serve the profession.
That's
awesome. Is your national conference every year or is it every other year?
It's every year, sir. So this year, July 20, I think it's 21st through 25th in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's just going to be a tremendous time. We have like 84 different classes. So.
And we got these great little binders here. I love the design of this, by the way, with the thin blue line. I don't know which camera it's on, but International Conference of Police Chaplains with the blue line there. Really well done.
You almost look like
really
white.
Yeah. Appreciate your guys' hospitality and having us here as well. It's
well, your family, brother. I always appreciate you. So.
Yeah, and so you spoke this morning. You did a class on resilience.
Yeah, officer resiliency.
Yeah. Officer and family resiliency. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a
we
great
were
time.
In that class.
Great group.
I don't think there was a dry eye in that class by the time you were done.
It was dusty.
But we were laughing. I mean, we were crying. We were crying. We were crying so hard. But it was a great class and for an absolute worthy cause.
Yeah.
Some of the things that you've walked through as a police officer, you got to share those things and the importance of having chaplains alongside of officers when they go through very difficult moments. You brought that out very well.
No doubt.
We're very thankful for that.
No doubt.
A lot to be learned, and most of it is learned on the ground, except for ICPC does a tremendous job of training our chaplains and credentialing our chaplains. If I'm not mistaken, we're the oldest credentialing police conference in the world.
And we're in our 52nd year, so that's a tremendous blessing. So we've been well established and setting the industry standard.
So let me ask you about that. So let's just say let's just jump into this. Let's just say you got a pastor or a minister out there or whatnot. A lot of times what I find is you'll have somebody that says, well, hey, I'm a pastor. Let me jump in here and help with this issue with this officer or following a traumatic event or whatnot. Why is that maybe not such the greatest way to go?
Well, the difficulty gets to be, if you understand what law enforcement officers go through, they're this, lied to on a constant basis. They see the worst of humanity. There's just, you have to have someone that you trust is not like everyone else. What's not like the rest of these, What's your MO? And so the important thing is to understand the culture, points of connection. How do I come in a loving way, prove to you that I'm legit and I'm not here for anything other than to care about you? And if you don't do it right, then there's an assumption you're like everything else I deal with on a regular basis.
A lot of times with officers, and I say it to you all the time on this podcast, which is, a lot of times you'll hear our officers say, well, here's a preacher man coming in trying to preach at me or convert me to this or that or whatever the case may be. What we really find, especially with law enforcement, is you have to really earn their trust and respect before they'll ever listen to something that you're going to try to say to them or just walk alongside them before they even let you into that realm. What I see from ICPC is you guys don't just say, hey, here's a credentialing component, but you actually have a progressive series of educational opportunities. So you have different levels, if you will. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. Well, like you mentioned, to be someone who's involved in ministry of some type, you have to acclimate yourself to the law enforcement world because it's not your world. And so
there, say that one more time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you do. You have to. And so we have 10 chaplain basic classes. They help you to understand how to operate, how to understand what's important in the law enforcement world, how to make connections, the unique stresses, and how to be effective. And so help you to do that, because otherwise you basically have one chance to get it right with law enforcement. No. Because if you don't get it right, you're going to get left.
That's a fact.
Yeah. Well, and time and again we see that where, it seems to me that for a lot of our chaplains, they spend their time building those relationships way in advance of the traumatic event that occurs, or just the maybe it's not just a traumatic event on the job, but maybe in their family, their life in general. That investment of time and those seeds being planted ahead of time matter tremendously within the law enforcement profession.
It really is a ministry of showing up, and of course of presence, but
sure.
It's a ministry of showing up, being there.
I call it a vulture ministry.
A vulture ministry.
Yeah, I'm supposed to sit up in a tree when I see a disaster, swoop down, love on them, go back in the tree and shut up until the next one. And then I swoop down again, love on them, go back in the tree, and eventually they start looking for me. And then eventually they call me out.
There you go.
So it's just go in there and prove that you love by your actions. Can you help me, Rick? Because I don't know if you and I have done this. Have we done this thing?
No.
Okay, help me out here. Put your hand like this. Okay. Keep your fingers equally spaced apart.
Okay.
Okay, put it on your chin.
This is going to go really sideways.
Yeah, that's your cheek. Your chin's right here.
There you go.
The whole point is, my job has to be show you something. In the police world, it means nothing.
Right.
Words mean nothing. I want to see a legitimate, caring concern, and if I know that you care, I want to hear what you know.
So let me ask you this. Why is it important, or more importantly, lots of cops watch this channel, this podcast. A lot of family members watch this as well, spouses, even children, parents of officers. Why is it important for our law enforcement family to have credentialed chaplains, specifically for police chaplains?
Oh, because it's about the profession. It's not about the chaplain. See, what credentialing shows me is you are committed enough to the cause.
That's good.
To eradicate your ignorance. I love our second shift. Our second shift has a motto: try harder to suck less. So,
that's a motto.
Well, that's a motto. And for me, I think that works for chaplaincy. See, my job is to come into your world as a police officer. Now, how do I better understand your world than to educate and eradicate my ignorance? I have to go in there, and if I love you, I want to know everything about what you're doing. I want to know your stresses. I want to know your trials.
Right.
I want to know your tribulations, and I want to help educate myself to meet you at everywhere I can, to love on you as hard as I can in every direction. And so,
well, the culture of law enforcement has its own language. It has its own culture.
Right.
And if you don't care, it's like any other missiology thing in life that you do. If you don't care to learn the culture, then you can't really show care towards the human being that's in the culture that deals with the culture day by day.
Right.
So learning the language and all that.
Well, and back to your original point. See, if sometimes you get well-meaning pastors, for instance, who want to make a difference, but they go in and without taking the time to get to know someone, without understanding and getting the proper training to really know if I know what I'm talking about, you push things down people's throat, and that goes south quick. What I need to do is walk in total humility. I need to realize I'm in the way. I need to realize I have to eradicate my ignorance so I can be a true asset. And I want to learn and grow and know everything I can because I want to love on you. I want to know the stresses you go through. I want to be an encouragement. And so credentialing is really me showing a competence and a willingness to learn and grow to try to have a professional standard to bring to you and serve you.
Well, I got one better for you. And this really cuts to the quick. You also have perhaps self-proclaimed faith leaders who sometimes show up, like to show up when the cameras are present, but they disappear after the lights go out. And what our officers are always wanting to see is the person that is there to care for the officer, walk alongside the officer when no one is looking. Because oftentimes that's when the officer is going to talk to you. Right. You know, one of the most powerful things I have found for police chaplains to be doing are ride-alongs with officers in those conversations that occur inside that squad car when no one else is looking.
Right.
No one else is around. Right. And, you know, you go into any roll call, the officers, you know, if they hear that, you know, there's a chaplain that wants to do a ride-along, most of the time they're going to roll their eyes and sigh and, boy, don't pick me. But what's interesting is when you see the transformation occur and then the officers start inviting the chaplain out. Or can you come and ride with me for a couple hours tonight? And it's usually they got something that they need and want to talk about.
Right. One of the greatest things you ever hear as a chaplain is, "Chappie, my seat's always open for you."
Oh, yeah.
You know, because they don't realize that, you know, chaplains have to understand that when I go on a ride-along with you, I'm messing up your office.
That's right.
When I go on a ride-along with you, I become another individual you have to keep an eye on in order your own safety.
Yep.
That's right.
When I come in there, I better come with my tail between my legs. I better come in to lavishly serve, and I better ask open-ended questions. And I really believe, for me, I want confidentiality is everything, number one. Whatever you say stays in the car. But the second thing gets to be is my job is to ask you questions, give you a chance to have a safe place to dump your frustrations. And when you ask for it, to give you some wise counsel and keep it as short and sweet as possible. And then if I do a good job, you'll come back for more. But once again, I have to live an example, because if I don't live what I'm talking, then I don't care what you have to tell me, Chappie. I don't need any more hypocrites in my life.
That's right.
That is right. You know, and what we're seeing across the country, I was sharing this with the class this morning, is this profession is dry, bone dry, and they are hungry and thirsty for truth.
Right.
And for somebody to be able just to remind them and walk alongside them as to why they do what they do and who they are doing it for. And I keep finding that when officers realize, you know, it's the fundamental question that we always ask: if you were called to this profession, to this job, to this service, who is it that does the calling?
Yep.
And that's where we see the light bulb go off a lot with our officers and their family members. You know, a lot of times with the spouses, they're always quick to remind us, especially like in the FOP and whatnot, hey, we didn't sign on for all this junk. Right. You know, this was their dream, their calling or whatnot. We're like along for the ride. And where we see the success happen is when the family really kind of gets over that hump and says, you know what, we may not feel like we were called to this like our officer was, but in essence, we still are as well. And now how can we help support them?
Right.
And we see that happen a lot through chaplaincy.
Well, and the why is the big deal. You know, Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live will never lack a how." You know, I find that I'm a student of history, and I was real curious. I went back and I thought, I wonder what the average age was that the founding father wrote the Declaration of Independence. It was 42.9. I thought, I wonder what the average age was the founding father wrote the Constitution, 42.6. So your average 43-year-old pledged their lives, their fortunes, and a sacred honor because they believed in their cause at great cost. Fast forward to our day, in the most powerful country in the world. The average age, 43, is the average age of the officer who took their life.
Oh, wow.
And I believe with all my heart, we have to reclaim the why. And I can sum it up with a real simple concept here found in the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, driving their just powers for the consent of the governed. See, in America, we're different than every other country. We had a conviction that rights come from God, not from government.
That's right.
That the proper role of government is to address threats to those rights, and that those tasked with addressing our threats are a group called civil government, and the enforcement mechanism of civil government is who? It's law enforcement.
Yeah.
So if there's a supernatural being granting rights, might there be some supernatural being who's trying to take out life, who's trying to kill us off? And so I think that's important, just to contextualize the why.
So I have a couple of questions. I'll start out with one. As we see the progression of policing take place, which we talk about all the time, new technology, different aspects of technology in cars and different things that law enforcement officers have to deal with, what are we doing as chaplaincy to make sure that we're progressing in the IT world, in the electronics era, to continue to reach generation after generation, where we become multi-generational in our aspect of training as well as doing the actual chaplaincy role?
Well, the International Conference of Police Chaplains has tackled that in the last while, and so we've made a major league, $250,000 plus investment in the tech to try to bring us up to speed, because this generation, and you guys know that in your work with law enforcement, this generation is different than previous ones in the way they process information, their callings, what's important to them. And so if we don't stay relevant, it's no different than the credentialing and the educational component. It's like, if I care about law enforcement and law enforcement is adapting and changing, I have to adapt and to change to keep relevant, to try to care about them. And so we're really trying to do that as an organization. We have, state-of-the-art apps, AI, we're working on a lot of things here that are really exciting that'll help give chaplains the tools to be effective.
You're really stressing out us old guys.
So you're saying that you've been doing this for over 50 years now through the ICPC. Are there many other credentialing organizations out there specifically for police chaplaincy?
Well, I don't know. I know there's other chaplaincy organizations. I know there's a lot of seminary work, things like that. Chaplaincy's taken on a whole new mission, which it's a fascinating thought here historically. I went back and historically checked into it, and that's a story. But, I'm not really aware per se. We have a, distinct credentialing level, and part of the litigation, let's take the legal side of things, which are big concerns we have with agencies, to have Graham versus Connor, what's a reasonable officer standard? The question gets to be, what's a reasonable chaplain standard?
Oh, yeah.
And so having been established for 53 or 52 years here, or on our 52nd year, we've maintained a constant, industry standard that helps us to help agencies in a proper way and, to show the due diligence.
Yeah. Well, and I think it shows again to the officers, they understand credentialing, they understand training, they understand certifications, all those other things. And wouldn't you want that in your chaplain? One of the things that we raised this morning in the class discussion that we had was this issue that I think many police agencies have fallen into the trap of, which is, especially with our law enforcement leaders, is allowing their police department chaplaincy to get turned around to where they become so solely externally focused back out to the community on behalf of the department, which sounds great.
Right.
But I can't stress this enough, is not their role. And they leave or get diverted away from their primary focus being internally on the officers that they're there to serve. And I've seen that be a huge pitfall in multiple agencies across the country. And there seems to be where it's seems to be swinging back in that direction. But can you speak to the importance of that, or the significance of making sure you don't get your streams crossed in that?
Well, sure. At the end of the day, every agency head will know that officer retention is one of the biggest things we have to address. Our numbers are down, and if you last year there was a study done from Police One, interviewed 2,833 officers, and they're tired. They're tired.
That's right.
When it came to mental health resources, 82% of them had some form of mental health in some sense, but they're only 33% were using it. And the challenge gets to be is trust and stigma. So the reality gets to be, at the end of the day, if you do not have individuals who go in, spend the time, build the relationships, and have a safe place to process the carnage of law enforcement, you're going to lose more officers. And so you better get some backup, And so law enforcement chaplains, from my perspective, a properly trained law enforcement chaplain can make a tremendous difference in helping out with keeping officers in the fight and loving on them and remind them of what they're doing and why they're doing it and how to do it in a way that's going to be victorious.
And then Absolutely. They don't carry the stigma of, quote unquote, having to go to other offices in the department that they fight or resist or hide from. Right. That really leads to some detrimental things in life.
Well, you can get rid of stigma. I'm just telling you right now, the way you have to do it is in our department, and I'll brag on the Elkhart Police Department because I'm proud. We've had a series of chiefs who believe in chaplaincy, the support us to no end, but we get new officers and help acclimate them and their spouses to understand what's coming their way. When they work in a united front together, they don't eat each other for lunch.
There you go.
And then we tell the new hires from the beginning that, guess what? You're going to go through stuff that's okay. The average cop in a mid-sized agency has 188 critical incidents, and not let alone Indianapolis or somewhere it's a bigger town. But the point simply gets to be at the end of the day is we have to do left of bang, if you've ever read the book.
That's right.
We have to turn around, and if we're going to establish resiliency principles, we need to do it at the beginning of their career, normalize it, and then when they go through stuff, we've already told them a normal part of this will be debriefing. A normal part of this will be processing stuff, and we get rid of the stigma. And then the other thing we do is we engage veteran officers who've been through it, got the T-shirt, and we bring them back to help use their experience, and you're my second chance, kid, don't blow it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so beautiful
That's
things
awesome.
happen in an agency where you work together. You just have to think outside the box. And chaplains can play a vital role in that. I know it from experience.
Good. Do you see that there seems to me to be a little bit of a reigniting of the flame for the role of police chaplains, even amongst chaplains is what I'm seeing.
Sure.
Are you seeing that from your perspective with ICPC?
Oh, I am, because one of the things we've done a terrible job as is just really understanding what chaplaincy is. When you talk to your average police officer, what do they say? He's a departmental preacher or something. We don't need a preacher. I think it's tantamount to, I love asking patrol officers. I say, how many of you had somebody claim to be Jesus Christ in the back of your car? And they all raise their hand. I said, how many have had any other religious leader? Buddha, Muhammad, Christian, anybody? Crickets. Why one name? I think the same thing happens in chaplaincy. We don't need no spiritual whatever. I got pulled up right here because the Collins Dictionary says spiritual means relating to people's thoughts and beliefs rather than their bodies and physical surroundings.
Right.
Well, you tell me that's not the battle, brother. I'm a rookie cop having more fun than should be legal. I do this job for free. You got to be kidding me. Fast forward 15.8 years later, the average cop killed himself. Yep. Does he have the same clientele, the same mad, bad, and sad people?
Yep.
Does he not have the same domestics? And how can I, with one set of circumstances, have more fun than should be legal? And 15.8 years later, I'm considering taking my life. Well, it's up here. And so we have to reclaim spiritual to realize this isn't Bible thumping. This is me coming in here and teach you how evil works to take your head out, because it takes you to the things you can't control and upsets you to the point that it affects the things in your control, and you start to spiral downward. And so it's just important that we help contextualize the battle, and chaplains can do that.
So if I can speak directly to the camera, maybe you're watching this podcast and you're a young man or young lady, and you're thinking because we all have gray in our beard that you just have to be older in order to be a chaplain. Please don't think that way. You don't have to be older to be a police officer. So there are parts in your life that you're going to have currently that you would relate to officers of your generation, and we would like to encourage you to get involved. We would like to encourage you to seek us out, seek ICPC out, find out about it. Maybe go do a ride-along with some of our younger officers and find out a place that you could come and serve and that you could help people who are going through these very wonderful, exciting times at their age, but then you also know a few years down the road, the honeymoon season is gone.
Well, and I think there's also a lot of power of what we have seen, too, where active and retired law enforcement officers have come in and stepped into the role as a police chaplain as well. And, there's just something different sometimes when we go into a roll call full of officers and they hear that there's some chaplain there and they fold their arms, and then they hear that they're an active or a retired officer or they've been walking with law enforcement for so many years. the arms come down, they open up a whole lot more, and then that's where, a lot of remarkable things happen.
Oh, yeah.
And it comes from that chaplaincy, the competency, but also just a little bit of the been there and done that.
It does, and I can tell you just from my own experiences, you can come in, be an encouragement of the culture, get to know it, walk intimately with it, and then speak with authority to the issues because, see, police will respect it when you know your stuff.
That's right.
But if you don't know your stuff, they're going to eat you for lunch.
Yeah.
So, back to your point about the younger chaplains, one of our mantras is be what is needed where is needed most.
Say that again, can you?
Be what is needed where is needed most.
Yeah.
Right above us is one of our see the good.
Yeah.
See, my job as a chaplain, and your opportunity that's there, if you're a young person looking to chaplaincy, if you want to make a difference in the lives of individuals and come in there and bring life and blessing and hope and encouragement, we'd love to talk to you because we're looking for a few good men and women. Mm-hmm. And as United States Marine, I'm telling you right now, it's a special calling that you don't want to miss out on. So if you're here today and this is tugging on your heart in any way, we'd love to invite you to come and talk to us because there's tremendous opportunity to make a difference and be what is needed where is needed most.
And if you're not an officer or don't have the ability to become an officer for whatever reason, that still doesn't cut you out of the pack. You're still needed. I've had times when officers have told me that they've spoken to one of our chaplains who was not in law enforcement, and they said, actually, I preferred to speak to somebody that isn't in my profession because I needed a fresh perspective. Amen. And I didn't want it to come from the people that I spend every hour of every day with. So it goes both ways. We're almost out of time, but I want to tell you right now, we very much appreciate you coming on the program, being with Rick and I and the Remnant Revealed audience. And we appreciate what you do, the hours and the life that you give to make this happen and to be the president of ICPC. And your term is close to being over, but we're very thankful for you, and we really appreciate your life and for you allowing God to use you and all of our ICPC members that are out there doing this great, blessed ministry every day.
Well, we appreciate you guys, and thank you for the tremendous work that you do and bringing life, hope, and encouragement to the profession, and we just appreciate the partnership, and we're honored to be here. And on behalf of our 2,300 members, some of the finest people in the world I've ever met, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Can I close with one scripture?
You can.
It made me think of this when we were all sitting here talking about why we're doing what we're doing, and also the differences that we see in the credibility of our police chaplains. It's from the book of Ephesians. And it simply says this: work with enthusiasm as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. And I think that's what makes the difference. And I think that's the light that our officers see in our chaplains when they see that there's no strings attached, and they're doing it as though they were doing it unto the Lord and not for the pleasing of other people on the outside looking in. So
amen.
Thank you for what you do.
Well, amen. I look at it this way: the Blues Brothers don't have anything on us. Okay, we're on a mission for God.
There you
go.
There
That's
you
awesome.
Go.
Well, thank you very much, Rick. As always, thank you very much.
Man, this is awesome being here.
It's great. It's a beautiful building, beautiful place, beautiful light. You could almost get hypnotized by that window up there, but we won't look at it too much longer. And, hey, we will see you real soon. Thank you for being our partner, joining with us and watching. It wouldn't be anywhere near as fun if we didn't know you were out there. So God bless you. We will see you in just a little while. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Rick and I trust that you heard something that will help your life. And if you believe that it would help others, please make sure and share. Like and subscribe and hit that bell so that you can be notified when the next podcast is available. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.